By the way, I just challenged him to make Xenomorph in Blender. So go tell him to do it because it's gonna be pretty fucking hard, but it's gonna be pretty fucking cool too if he actually does it, alright?
I did. And yeah, it was pretty fucking hard, bro. Alright, let me walk you through the entire process. So I started off with the sphere and marked this long head to accommodate the big brain energy that a Xenomorph has. Now, sculpting an alien is not like sculpting a face, and there is no method that I knew to do this. My best bet was to block out the main features and worry about the details later. This is the first time that I've ever sculpted a creature, and the way I think about this is that whenever presented with a complex task, just break it down into simpler steps and focus on one step at a time. Now, this advice doesn't revolve around sculpting only, but it's good life advice as well. A great workflow is to break down the model into its primary, secondary, and tertiary details, and one should only proceed to the next level once he's happy with the previous one. I carved out the ribcage structure of its exoskeleton and of the pelvis. Now, there were so many variations to this alien. When I tried to look online, there wasn't a fixed design for the Xenomorph. So I had to look at various designs and pick out the features that felt best to me. And for this one, I decided to go with the beastly legs because it just makes him look more fierce and animalish. Yeah, that is what I want you to feel. Fear. I added another sphere for the arm, another for the forearm and the wrist. And right now, my only concern is just to get the basic features in and to get an overall look for the shapes of the sculpt. Now, once I was happy with this, I started adding more details to the face and carved out this helmet shape of the head and also dug in for the mouth. Now, the reference has a lot of these complex shapes, these tube structures, and to accommodate these things, I just simply made notes on my sculpt and marked some areas. What I was doing was setting reminders on where to come back and add details. Like I said, breaking down the sculpt into simpler forms and worrying about the details later is what made most sense to me. I then marked the thumb on the wrist and added cylinders to make one of the 4 fingers of the Xenomorph. So you just make one and simply duplicate and place for the rest. Now the next part I streamed on YouTube and it was pretty fun. So subscribe and turn on the notifications if you want to be notified about the streams. I try doing them at least once a week, but mostly they are just spontaneous. So yeah, hit the bell notification so you don't miss it. I wasn't really sure how to go about the chest area because so many variations. So I mixed the concept of this exo armor with the veins and organic feel of this reference for the neck. Yeah, it looked pretty cool. And to be honest, looking at the reference was really scary because there's just so many details on this. I had no clue what steps to follow, so I was literally just jumping around different parts of the body and tried adding simple shapes and markers for myself, just breaking down the complex form into simple forms and just worrying about one thing at a time. For the arms and the legs, I was also blocking out the muscles and the form underneath the skin. I was just marking the same muscles that I know from a human body. And some of them I had to invent. I had no reference for the back, so I went to Pinterest and searched Xenomorph ass. And looking at what I saw, I quickly changed it to Xenomorph back. Once I got the references, I continued the ribcage form to the back and started making these antenna shapes with the UV spheres. Once again, you can see, keeping everything really simple, just simply blocking out, getting a feel for the sculpt. Now this model was a huge step out of my comfort zone, and if not for Arijan's challenge, you wouldn't have been seeing this video. I joined Arijan's community, the Digitally Enhanced Club, to learn more about portfolio and making a personal brand. I've been working really hard since last year to learn to sculpt and follow my passion, and I believe that I am at a point where I can try finding work in this area as well. I know that the fastest way to learn anything is to take lessons from someone who has already done it. And to be honest, with so many creators spreading wrong information and tactics that they've never tried just to get views and attention, I find Arijan as an authentic source who is genuinely making an effort to guide artists towards a more fulfilling and purposeful life. And the advice that Arijan gave me in the community really stuck with me. And that is that a portfolio piece cannot be something that can be made in a single day. It should scream dedication. It should get attention and cut through all the noise that is available online. It's way better to sculpt one exceptional piece a week rather than sculpting one average piece a day. And in this case, going slow is the fastest way forward. So yeah, I really appreciate this challenge. And I'm going to leave a link to Arijan's channel and his community with the strong recommendation of joining if you are interested in turning your passion into your profession. Links in the description. So yeah, back to the video. Now it was time to add a bit more details. So I combined the hand with the fingers and added the knuckles and the division for the tendons. For the nails, I just simply masked an area and pulled them out all together and then refined the shape that I got. Once I was done with that, I made UV spheres for the teeth like you can see in the reference. And little did I know, I would be redoing this entire section later. I began to emphasize the veiny and tubular feeling of the neck area, and this looked really badass. I also added some improvised detail to the chest area, and that was it for the stream and for that day. Yeah, sculpting a Xenomorph is exhausting, bro. The next day, I committed to complete the upper area of the Xenomorph, and with some alpha brushes, I began to detail the skin. You can find this free library of textures on the ZBrush library website, and also comment down if you want a specific tutorials on how to use them. If I see enough interest, I will definitely make a tutorial on this. Now, after some trial and error with various textures, I found the one that I really liked. And a tip for using alpha textures is that do not use symmetry near the middle. You want to use symmetry when working on areas away from the middle. And in the center, you want to turn off symmetry and break up the patterns. This makes it look more believable and more realistic. I tried using a spine texture for the back, but it didn't really work. So I had to manually add it using the clay strips brush. Now, when there's no easy way, brute force is the tactic that never fails, I guess. So yeah, brute forced my way through the spine. Now coming back to these areas that I marked earlier, you can see that I tried using different brushes, and what really worked best was the simple draw brush. I tried the same thing again with the arm, and what worked best was the draw brush. Now some parts that I was sculpting I could see it in the reference, but some things I added on my own just to add an extra to the sculpt, like these veins all over the body. It looks really cool in my opinion. I found this stitches texture that you use for stitches on clothing, and I expanded it on one axis to make it longer and used it as a brush for the tubes. This worked pretty well, surprisingly. Finally, it was time for the legs. So I upped the resolution and started adding the skin textures and tubes on the side once again. Also, this part looked really cool in the reference. So I made a UV sphere, blocked it out, and then once I was happy, I just simply combined and remeshed so that it becomes one. Now here's a cool trick. I didn't like this bulge, and a quick way to mask this area was to press Shift A while hovering your cursor over an area. Now, as you move the cursor, you also expand the masked area. Once I got the area, I just simply inversed the mask and removed this bulge. Yeah, this was just an easy masking tactic that I wanted to share with you. And yeah, of course, once that was done, I just simply added some skin textures and scales to make it look more beastie and fierce. Yeah. There's not much tips and tricks that I can share with you beyond this point, and it was just about adding details and keep going. However, there is one very important thing that I want you to understand. And that is that this stage has nothing to do with your learning and growth. This stage is merely a cosmetic stage, and we are only adding details over the foundation that we have built in the previous two stages. Do not waste your time on this stage. If you are struggling with the basics, there is no point adding pose, texturing your sculpt, lighting your shitty base, making a 360 video. So many artists are jerries, bro, and what they do is they just simply sculpt, add lights, texture, make a 360 render, post it online, and then wonder why no one likes it. They keep doing this for a month and then wonder why do their sculpts still suck. Well, Jerry, it's because you're focusing on everything else except for the basics. If you add flowers on poop, it is still poop. So yeah, go work on the basics, bro. And if you want to build a strong foundation, you can join my free school and get access to the free head sculpting course, which is a level-based course and will teach you the exact same principle. It's the first link in the description. You're welcome. The tail was pretty fun though. I just modeled one portion of it and then used the array and the curve modifier to duplicate it along the curve. Now, being completely transparent, I have no idea how this actually works, so I keep pressing random buttons and options till it works. This is what every professional 3D artist does, bro. Just press buttons. What I do know, however, is that if you want to rotate the object, you select a curve point, press Ctrl T to twist it, or you can press Alt S to scale it up and down. Remember, I told you that I redid the entire mouth? So yeah, I got this feedback from one of my school members, Nikolai, and he told me that the mouth would look really cool if I added a tail like dinosaurs have. I loved the idea and I implemented it in my sculpt along with some sharper and more fierce teeth. Now placing the teeth was really boring, and the main trick over here is to just randomize the rotation and have different shapes. This is some big brain stuff I'm throwing at you. Remember that in 3D and in realistic artworks, imperfection is perfection. So the next time you try making anything realistic, anything, just try breaking patterns and adding imperfections to things. It will make all the difference, bro. After that was finally time for lighting and rendering the scene. I just used a simple 3.+1 lighting. Yes, I made that name up. It's basically a 3-point lighting with an extra light to add a bit of a color and interest in the scene. And with that, I present you Xenomorph. Once again, I'd like to appreciate Arijan. Thank you for this challenge and everything that you're doing for this community, brother. I was genuinely surprised to see a big creator as him giving a shout out to a small creator like me. I did my best and I hope I did justice to your challenge. And yeah, you guys let me know in the comment section if you put up a good fight. Also subscribe because it is my birthday today. Goodbye, take care.